NFL star Nick Bosa may have just disrespected the New York Jets in a recent interview talking about his upcoming game with the San Francisco 49ers, and Matt and I are going to break it down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. We're back, and essentially, Nick Bosa may have just thrown some serious shade the Jets' way because looking at an interview he just did, he brought up the Jets and the Vikings, and not in the best of light. Essentially being asked about the game, he responded that he thinks this weekend the 49ers are playing a better team. He thinks that it's going to be harder for them to win and they can get away with less stuff than they got away with against the New York Jets. So some clear shots right there, in my opinion, essentially saying that he does not think the Jets are very good to where he can get away with some stuff. And interestingly enough, he did get away with some stuff, as Nick Bosa only got 2 tackles last game. Only one of them was a solo tackle. And when you look at some other guys who were on that list, Nick Bosa, who's getting one of the biggest contracts in NFL history, probably should be going out there and having a better game than he did. But also at the same time, I can't just sit here and pretend like there's not also the argument that Nick Bosa, he might just be hyping up the 49ers. Matt, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, Chris, I think this is less of a disrespectful shot towards the Jets and more of a respectful shot towards the Vikings. I think he doesn't want to give the Vikings any bulletin board material, which would be stuff that's going to make them more excited and more amped up to go out and play against the 49ers. I think, you see a bunch of the best coaches in NFL history. They do things like this all the time. Before, there were a bunch of games where the Jets were about to play the Patriots, and the Jets could probably have 1 or 2 wins on the season, and Bill Belichick would be hyping them up like crazy. And then he would go out and win the game more often than not. But that's what I think. That's what I think Nick Bosa is here. That's what I think Nick Bosa is doing here. He's just giving them a PR answer. He doesn't want to. He's not going to give them any extra fight. Against talking about him getting away with stuff versus the Jets. Maybe they felt like they didn't play their best game, but that also might be a message to his teammates saying, even though we just blew out a team that's supposed to be one of the better teams in the league, we still can't be complacent. We got to make sure we play even better than we did last week, next week. And if they play like they did last week, maybe they lose. I'm not really sure about that because I think it's pretty clear, even though the Jets are 0-1 and the Vikings are 1-0, I think it's very clear the Jets are a better team than the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree. Obviously, the Vikings did look good in week 1, and you do have to take into account, does that even count when you're playing the New York Giants at this point? Yes, they looked good. Love that Sam Darnold looked good. We were both Sam Darnold truthers for a very long time, so.
I'm still never stopped.
Yes, true. So, I definitely think that the Vikings are better than expected, and it is a bit to a degree Bosa understanding, look, this is a team that we see often. We're both in the NFC, all that. So you look at it and you think, okay, they're more familiar with playing the Vikings in general than in playing the Jets. And honestly, Nick Bosa did not have the greatest game the last time he played against the Vikings. He only won 1 out of 15 reps against Christian Darrisaw, so that's a 6.7% win rate according to Pro Football Focus. Essentially, as this Vikings fan page put it, Bosa was a non-factor against them. So I think another part of this is also Bosa's probably I did not play well the last time we played the Vikings. I had a disappointing game. I don't want to do that again, especially coming off a game where I didn't do that much. And it's not just me going out and hating on Nick Bosa because the fact that he kind of gave, if nothing else, a bit of an elbow to the Jets. So I'm not trying to hate on Nick Bosa. I understand he's one of the best pass rushers in football. There's a reason why he got the contract he got. He deserved it with the way that he plays, the impact he has on the game, all that. I'm not trying to make it seem like that's not the case. But I do think part of it definitely is Nick Bosa's just working for his own psyche here, thinking, okay, look, here's the deal. I didn't play that well against the Jets. I wish I played better. I wish I had a better game against this team. Oh, well, it's fine. We won by 13. One of those was a garbage time touchdown. We're now going into a team that won a game. They have momentum because they went out there in a season where they drafted a rookie quarterback who's out for the entire season. Now they're rolling with a guy who's never really proven to be a starting level quarterback, despite the fact that we both think he is on a separate note, but like, he's been on a ton of teams, including the 49ers, Sam Darnold, obviously, and you get to the point where they're probably thinking, we cannot lose this game to the Vikings right now. It's imperative that we start 2-0, that we keep implementing the fact that we, as the 49ers, are the best team in the NFL, which is what they want to. We know that everyone on the 49ers, and every 49ers fan believes that the 49ers are the best team in football, regardless of what happened last February. So, understandably so, not really. Honestly, like, it's not really going to be something that in a few weeks is going to be a big deal that Bosa said that, because I think the Jets are going to prove they are better than the Vikings, if nothing else. I do think the 49ers are going to absolutely rout the Vikings. That has nothing to do with Sam Darnold. It just has everything to do with the fact that I think the 49ers are a phenomenal team. They have a phenomenal defense. Sam Darnold's not going up against the New York Giants, despite the fact that Brian Burns is a very, very great player. Giants defense, not good at all either. You're just looking at this in a weird situation for sure. I'm interested because it just makes me go back to the rest of the Jets' schedule more than anything else, because it's like the Jets have a absolute cupcake schedule, so they should be better.
Yeah, the Jets actually have the fourth easiest schedule in the league from weeks 2 to 17. So they started off with the hardest, the second hardest game, wherever you have the 49ers power ranked, whether you have the 49ers first or the Chiefs first. Looking at power rankings this week, every single website has one of those guys, one or two, or I think one of them had 3 with the Lions. But the point is the 49ers are a really good football team, and the Jets, I wouldn't say they got it out of the way because they lost, but the rest of the schedule is looking a lot easier. Talking about the Vikings as well, the Jets get to play the Vikings as an away game, but it's in London, so it's not a home game for the Vikings. So that's another advantage for the Jets schedule that they're going to have. And just for this quote one more time, I really think it's Nick Bosa making sure that the football aspect of this game stays as the most important thing, and not making the game into a PR, a media thing, and not making one game bigger than what it is, which is just one game. And he's just making sure everyone stays on the same page, everyone's dialed into playing football, and isn't just thinking about any other factors that could distract them from their jobs on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, also Nick Bosa, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all, because I think it's good for sports when people add a tiny bit of trash talk and some spice to your comments. I don't care what sport it is. I think it's good for every single sport, because sports in the age of social media have gotten very much we're all best friends type. Nick Bosa did say this about Jalen Hurts. He thought that they had figured Jalen Hurts out, and then basically we're like, hopefully the 49ers will watch the tape because we have the blueprint to figure out Jalen Hurts. So you look at it and you're like, okay, Nick Bosa, he's not afraid to mention other teams. I think it is good for the sport that he does that. Obviously, as Jets fans, it's like, okay, we see that. We see you talking, and well-deserved. They won the game. But as you mentioned, they didn't get the game out of the way because they lost. But when you look at it, would you rather play not only the hardest game on your schedule, probably the hardest game for the arguably, in my mind, the worst matchup for the Jets? Would you rather play them week 1 or week 14 if you're the Jets?
So that's a really good question. I think for the 49ers specifically, I definitely think week 1 was the time to get them. Because talking about their offseason with the holdouts, with Trent Williams holding out and also Brandon Ayuk holding out, you saw Trent Williams left the game in the third quarter because he was cramping, which is something that probably doesn't happen in week 14 or a much later week if they played them then. But that far deep in the season, it's completely different because any player on either team can get hurt. So I think you can argue for both ways. But if you want to argue that maybe the 49ers would be hurt in a later game, you'd have to argue the same thing for the Jets. So I think the Jets, they just didn't have any excuses to lose this game. And losing this game, it's not the end of the world, seeing how the 49ers were a couple plays. They were an overtime away from winning the Super Bowl. And the Jets were not even a playoff team last year. So maybe the Jets are going to have some time to ramp up here. But they're going into a very easy stretch of games, starting off with Tennessee and then the Patriots. Those are 2 back-to-back games that the Jets really should be at least 2-1. And then I don't remember the fourth team they play, but it's
Broncos.
another easy game for the third game or for the fourth game. The Jets should be 3-1 to start the year. And if they're anything worse than that, it's going to be a cause for concern.
So they're playing the Broncos, and it's at home.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to guess.
Yeah, they're playing the Broncos in MetLife. If you're the Jets, you know that it's hard to call a game like that a must-win because it's not the end of the world if you lose a game in Week 4. But if you're losing to the damn Broncos at home, that is ring the alarm, cause for concern. So I really don't think that'll happen. I also think they're going to beat the Titans. I think the Patriots might give them a bit more trouble than either of those two other teams, just with the familiarity that these two teams have with each other, as I try to not get my words jumbled. And outside of that, I think the Jets will be 3-1 in a few weeks from now. I'm really excited to watch it. And at some point, we're going to watch a game on Jets Digest. We're going to figure that out later on as the season goes along, little live watch party type. So you guys want to make sure to stay tuned for that. We got big things planned. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that good stuff. Have a great day, and go Jets.